Everyone, welcome back to the Jay's Fifth Down podcast. I'm your host, Jay Gay. I'm here today with Rusty Byrd, co-host of the Kirk and Byrd Sports Show. I'm glad to have him on today as we're going to talk some football here. First off, we're going to recap the New York Giants 2022 season, and then we're going to get into should the Giants pay Daniel Jones, what he's asking for. I'll get Rusty's opinion on that, and then we'll talk about the combine. What are coaches, GMs, owners, scouts looking for at this particular time during the NFL offseason? So first off, Rusty, thank you for coming on the show today.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Jen. I appreciate it. I always enjoy, being on your show.
Right, yeah. So as mentioned before, the Giants, they finished 9-7-1. They tied the game. And they lost in the divisional round to the Eagles. Of course, they had a good season. They made it to the playoffs. Brian DeBall came in, first-year head coach, and they look better. So what did you notice out of the Giants this year? How much they improved?
Well, I think, the new coach definitely made a difference, Brian Daboll. But I think having Saquon Barkley back, was a big piece of the success. And I'm sure everyone from last year is like, well, darn, if we had him the last, 4 years healthy, or last 3 years healthy, then maybe we would have had some of the same success. But I think they also were able to simplify some things for Daniel Jones and finally take advantage of some of the things that he can do. A lot of people, just have these misconceptions that, certain people are just built to stay in the pocket and they can't do this. But if you watched him in college, he can run.
Yeah, he can.
He's athletic, and it's the same thing for, like Josh Allen. Like, he's very athletic. He can run, and if you can take advantage of those threats, then it can, help overall the offensive scheme. But I think also just new life with the Giants, new leadership went a long way too.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, having Saquon helps too for a full season. And you saw he put up over 1,000 yards scrimmage. He looked fresh. The burst was there that we saw remnants of earlier. He had good production on the ground. So it was nice to see him back healthy. Really always want to see players healthy and playing to the best of their ability. So it was good to see Saquon back, and hopefully we get to see him continue to stay healthy. Now the question is for the Giants. Now they got some money moves to make. Okay, Daniel Jones. A lot of talk's been going around. He's asking, from what I'm hearing, about the $45 million range.
About 45, yeah.
What do you think?
No. Don't get fooled by 1 year. You've got 3 years of evidence of what he can do, and just because he's not terrible doesn't mean he's one of the best. He's the third best in his division because we don't know what the Commanders are going to have. But I let me ask you this: he's asking for $45 million per year. Would he be in your top 10 or even 15 quarterbacks in the entire NFL?
No. Top 20.
Okay.
Top 20.
Top 20?
Top 20, maybe.
Okay.
He just, like you said, man, he had a decent season last year under the new regime. He cut down on his turnovers, the fumbles and things that he was struggling with. But I'm going to need more than 1 year of that. And can you do it on a consistent basis? And we saw the first couple of years, to me, he hasn't proven enough yet for him to ask for that money. But when the market is what it is right now, that's what you'll get. So.
Yeah, that's the market. But, to me, he's more asking for money like he's the reason that they're going to win or lose. Now, we know quarterbacks can lose games for you, but I just feel like, let me ask you this. I know they aren't going to have one of the top picks, but would you want to be, I'll say, stuck with him just because he was your number one pick, and in the end, all you really get is a Carson Wentz? Or are you gonna have, Joe Burrow? not Joe Burrow. I'm sorry, Joe from the Ravens.
Flacco.
Joe Flacco. Right. I mean, what are you going to really have? When you look at him signing a long-term deal. One of the things they can do is they can, franchise, give him a franchise tag.
They can.
And I think that, which is something the Redskins did with Kirk Cousins for a couple of years. And at that, I think his number puts him at around 32 million,
around that
32.
Range.
Yeah. And so I know one of the things talked about is, just seeing if there can be a compromise between his franchise tag number and what he may be looking to get. Like, do you sign him if he'll take 35, 36, 37, 38? But I would franchise him just to get him in at 32 and see if he can do it again.
Yeah, prove it. I would agree on that. And with Barkley, they have the same situation here as well. Do you pay him or do you franchise tag? So what do you think about that?
So Barkley, I know he said something like he didn't necessarily want to, reset the market, but I don't think he can. I would offer him about $12 million, which is what they're looking to offer. But, to get he wants like Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is currently the highest paid running back at $16 million per year. And he made an impact with the 49ers, but he's another person who's hurt a lot. And then even the people paying him 16, would they want to pay him 16? The high, you also have Ezekiel Elliott, who made 15, and that wasn't worth it. That's not worth it, what he gave you last year in production. Same with Alvin Kamara. Like, I just think, Saquon, if you don't take 12, find another team. Because my theory, I always tell you running backs is just go get a fresh young running back out of the draft in the second or third round. Because you just need fresh legs.
It's easy, man. It's simple, but again, these teams feel like they have to, pay these big contracts out, and especially with running backs because they have such a short span. Most of them, at least. You have your Frank Gore's and your Adrian Petersons, but how many of those come around the block?
Right.
So you're looking at a span of about a good 7 years, maybe.
If you're lucky. This is the thing, because if you invest all that into a running back, he could be good. He could be, but are you going to get 7 great years? You can get maybe 3 or 4 great years from a great back, but the other years, maybe whether it's injury or just consistency. And then we don't use the running back like we did 10, 15 years ago. Like, it's a passing league, and then the running you do is usually out of some shotgun set, and nobody's lining up a fullback in the eye and just running the ball. Not that there aren't great running backs, but that's what you have to kind of consider. And I think with the way the game has evolved, like, just look at KC. Just get a fast young guy. That's what and give him the ball.
Yeah. So, Isaiah Pacheco was a great pickup. He was a steal for them, and he played phenomenally. And having McKinnon as well. They like to use those 2-back sets, and and just the way that Reed was able to scheme that, and they were, because the Chiefs, if you look at, man, they really, the past couple of seasons, running the ball wasn't, their biggest thing. They weren't able to do it in a consistent, effective manner. But with Pacheco here, they've been able to do it better. And so that's the thing about it. So, just something to keep an eye on as we move throughout the offseason. We already saw a couple guys get franchise tagged, and, there's still Lamar Jackson out there, but that'll be another day. So moving on, man, to the combine here, which has actually been going on the past hour or so. But now, with your, during this period, what do you believe, in your opinion, that coaches, GMs, owners, scouts, what are they looking for out of the combine? Because obviously it doesn't tell the whole story about a player,
Right.
but it is important in evaluation. So what, in your mind, do you think these guys are looking at during this process?
I think what you're looking to see, because you got film, you got actual game footage of what people do. What I would use the combine for is to see if the footage matches up to the raw data that you can get out of a combine. With the 40-yard dash, the vertical leap, the broad jump, the cone drills, the 20, the bench, the 20-yard shuttle and the bench. Like, okay, we see your production, but do the other things measure up? And what I mean by that is, if you're in the SEC and you're extremely productive and you have those measurables to go with it, okay, now that gives me a way to list you on my board. Where I would look to really use those is, like, say the athlete that's from a smaller conference or school. Say you got somebody from James Madison or Howard University or Georgia Southern or Georgia State, and say they had a very productive year, or they look like they dominated, like they're offensive linemen and they dominated. Well, now I might need to look at those measurables because, how strong are you? How is this going to translate to what we usually see or need on the field? And to me, also outside of the combine, it's just doing your research. Because there are things, somebody could have great film, they could have great combine numbers, but then if you're really going to invest in somebody, and this is part of, I know the interview, but what is that person's true character? And those things are key, man. And so there is a use for the combine, but I think the really good GMs just use it. Let me just say this. When you're putting everything together, I think the combine, if you have a pie in your pie chart where some people might have made that 60% of what they use in evaluating for the draft, I would have it as a much smaller portion. It may be, less than 20% or 25% of what I'm looking for. But it is a tool, and it gives you a chance to find somebody that nobody, like some guy out of Georgia State might go out there and run a 4.2. Okay, all right. But the film shows you didn't cover well, you didn't do this. But you know what? I'm gonna draft you because maybe if I get you in my program, I can use you on special teams for a bit. I can develop you, and that's how you find those gems.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with your take there. I think the combine, a lot of people tend to overinflate it to the point where they say, well, man, he had a trash combine, man. I can't draft him, or he had a spectacular combine, and it's like, okay, well, man, shoot, he might go number one in the draft or this or that or that. Yeah, but you also look at, like you said, the tape. Are they producing on the field on a consistent basis? Are they, assigning? Are they playing the right way? Are they situationally aware? You can notice that too. Those are key things I believe coaches, GMs, scouts, they're looking at right now, and it's very important. Especially you got the D line and the DBs route to that. No, the linebackers. Yeah, the linebacker and the defensive linebackers. So anything specific that you think today that as far as those position groups that these teams are looking at, as far as the drills?
I think if you're looking at linebackers, one of the things, because Michael Parsons is kind of being that model, you got it. It's so much more. I mean, he's big and fast, but, finding that dog that has the speed to go with it. Because, again, he's a very, very special player. But your linebackers today got to have speed, not just on the rush for the sacks, but they got to cover, man. When you're putting 5 out and you got tight ends that are really receivers or receivers that are really tight ends, like who's going to cover those guys? You can go with a bunch of defensive backs, but you need bigger guys to cover these big tight ends that are really impacting the game. Like, who can cover Travis Kelce? but maybe you can find that in the combine. You know what I'm saying? Like, who can travel? I mean, who can cover Kettle? Who can cover these guys? So that's the type of thing I would look for out of today's group. You said it was linebackers and defensive linemen. Yeah. And the same with your defensive linemen. You need to stop the run, but really you got to have that guy that's versatile and athletic. You know, Aaron Donald, like, you don't necessarily have to go with look at his height, but look at his production. Like, you know, in college he was a beast, and it carried over here to the NFL. So I would look for those linemen that show on tape, and who are they? And that's where I think some of the power conferences do make a difference, because I think it's a big difference between, you know, the offense and defensive linemen in the Pac-10 and ACC as opposed to the SEC.
I agree. Yeah, definitely. You see there's huge difference there. I mean, obviously the competition level play, but then again, it's just like the tenacity, the aggressiveness. Like, it's just, SEC is just, as they say, it just means more. So,
yeah.
And no, I did not get paid to say that. I was asking. But yeah, and you mentioned character also. I just wanted to real quick, just, you know, you mentioned that, like, these interviews and things like that, you know, they're looking at these guys, like, how important is it, you know, for these young guys coming in, like, to have that character and that want to, you know, to stay focused, to get better into these teams as they move throughout the process?
So to me, character is huge. You know, I played, you and I both played, you know, football in high school, and you got guys on your team, you're all teammates, and but you ain't kicking with everybody.
Right.
You know, I mean, and so some people, like, I am blessed. I know I played football with a lot of really, really talented guys, and we were a team on the field. Outside of that, you know, some guys, though, how did they carry themselves? Like, did they walk around like, hey, I'm this football guy, or were they just trying to be regular? And did they, what was their character outside of football? Like, were they a jerk? Like, even if it had nothing to do with football, like, is that somebody you want to hang out with? And I especially remember, like, being in college, and my school didn't have a football team in college, but there were basketball players. But I've been around college football players, and, you know, like, who is carrying themselves? Who's getting in trouble at the parties? Who's just in the cafeteria, their language and how they treat their girlfriends, or just regular folks on campus and in class. And I'd go back to their communities, like, because those are the people that, even though they can ball, they could be a cancer in the locker room, or they can be the ones outside with domestic issues. Now, look, it could happen to anybody, but those character issues, to me, are key. So you got to have those background checks, even beyond, if you're serious about taking somebody high, even beyond what the general NFL security does. And I just think character is huge. It is huge. And it goes along with, again, not just with off the field, but on the field, in the locker room. And I'll give you a great example. So a lot of us assumed Russell Wilson was this great character guy. Okay, and he's a Christian, he's a nice guy, but from what you're hearing, some of the things he was doing in Seattle were not being conducive to being a real leader. That he projected as a leader because he was the quarterback, but there was a lot of strife in that locker room in terms of how the defense felt with him, and like, he kind of thought he was management and being more corporate, and now you're hearing like he had his own office and you couldn't directly like access him. Richard Sherman said he had to go through somebody to just talk to him, and it's like, that's not being a leader, and that doesn't make for good team chemistry, you know. And what I think is, I give the teammates more credit for not calling him out as much as they probably could have. And you know, I've always rooted for Russell Wilson because he's from Richmond. He was born around the time when I was living in Richmond at VCU. We're both Russ. Left hand, you know, I mean, he's a quarterback. I played quarterback. But, like, yeah, like, it's not, like, all that stuff, people can kind of let it go by when you're winning. But now that you're in Denver, or how you finished out your time in Seattle, that's not good stuff, man. You know, And so that character doesn't have to be just because you smack somebody upside the head or cuss somebody out, but are you a teammate? Like, and one of the things I hear a lot about Tom Brady is he was just a regular dude. Whether he was faking it to be a regular dude, but nobody felt like he was feeling like he was better than them. A new guy, Jayden, if you walk in that locker room as a free agent, he would, this is what I've heard everybody say. He'll go up to you and say, hey, Jayden, I'm Tom Brady. I'd like to introduce myself to Tom Brady. Of course you know who he's Tom Brady. But he doesn't carry himself like he's better than anybody. And that is leadership. And that goes to having those chemistry, things work out.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, like you said, I played, when playing football and everything, you're not going to, I mean, everybody's not going to get along, outside the locker room. But when you're there, when you're at practice, when you're in film, when you're on the field, when you're in the game, everybody's got to be on the same accord. You have to, present yourself as a good teammate, I mean, and because you're going to be in life, you're going to be around people you don't like. Or you're going to be in situations that you don't like, but you have to learn how to carry yourself into the point, be professional, and carry yourself to the point where, hey, you know what? I'm here to get a job done. I'm getting paid to do this or whatever, and I'm going to do that job done. I'm going to be, a reasonable person about it, and that's the thing with these guys, and because all the talking off the field and and then you got to be focused, man. It's because. If you're worrying about, if you're talking trash, let's say, for example, if you got a receiver in DB, I don't know, for example, let's say A.J. Brown and Jalen Ramsey, we'll just put it right there. If these guys, both great dudes, if these guys are, if Ramsey's over there talking trash to you, what he's going to do, are you going to go there and just, like, get in that beef and not focus, and then before the ball snapped and you're over here arguing, and the ball is on the ground. It's fourth down. That play is supposed to go to you, right? You're not emotionally aware of what's going on.
Yeah, and some people talk trash to do that, to get you out of your game,
right?
And so you got to be aware of that too. I have no problem with people talking trash, but you gotta do it and not impact you at all. The other thing, and I'll give you an example of this also. When I was in high school, I played with some great guys, great athletes, just great athletes. There was a guy though, and I won't say his name, but he was an outstanding athlete, and he was in 10th grade. We had a senior quarterback, and he was probably next in line, but he didn't get a lot. He didn't play a lot of quarterback in 10th. He was like a receiver. I mean, this kid was 6'5", crazy skills. Could throw it. He was really Vince Evans before you ever saw Vince. I mean, Vince, the quarterback from Texas. I said Vince Evans, but Vince, what was the quarterback from Texas that won the championship against USC? I don't know why I cannot remember his name right now. But anyway, he was a very athletic, he was like a Lamar Jackson. But my point is, crazy talent, but off the field wasn't a leader and wasn't good in the classroom and got into some trouble. And our coach, going into the next year, he let us vote as a team. Do we want him on the team? And we voted no. Like, clearly an asset, but he wasn't allowed to play on our team. And that tells you, like, we were willing to sacrifice to try to have a cohesive unit,
Which will go a longer way. And I mean, but think about it. If would you rather have a guy, he's phenomenal talent, great, but he's not a leader. He's getting into trouble, and that stuff carries into the locker room and the team, and it's not, you're just driving focus away from what is important, which is winning football games, winning a championship, and that type of stuff. So that's the thing that people got to understand and think about. But last up here on the podcast, man, is our wild card question today, Rusty. If you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh, man. Okay, so if I could have any superpower, I think it would be just crazy intelligence. Just like off the charts, so smart, I mean, and I know nobody's. I'm trying to think of the equivalent, and there are some of these, superheroes that like Doctor Strange and all. They have a power and they're smart, but no, like I just want my power to be like, okay, I've never done it before, but somebody says build an iPhone, and I just read a book real quick or like, but could you work on this cancer thing? Oh yeah, okay, got that. And then I just think if I was like extremely intelligent, then I could figure out the rest. Like I could then be Batman because I could get all the equipment and tools I need, then, do all the other superhero stuff I need to do. So not a lot of people, I was first thinking strength or invisibility or the ability to fly. But dude, if I just had unbelievable intelligence, like I would figure the rest out.
That's a good one. You actually stole mine, man. I was going to say
really
super intelligence. Yes, I was going to say
wow.
that because I mean, yeah,
I thought I was going off the top. Okay,
see, you got super strength, all that stuff. That's cool, man. But man, the mind, I believe, is the most powerful weapon you can ever wield, and the most powerful ability you can ever have. And so when if it's operate at the highest capacity, there's no telling what you can do.
Yeah,
and so that's what I would want to.
So look, Jay. So I could not only because I was thinking, I could be a running back or a basketball. No, if you are the smartest, if you go into football coaching, you could probably win all the Super Bowls because you could be ahead of the curve in the new come up with new schemes.
Absolutely.
Or you could figure all that out. You can go into law and you could be the greatest lawyer or whatever, man. But like, yeah. Or you could be so intelligent you can have mad game with the women, because how to talk the talk, man. So yes, that would be our superpowers.
Okay. You know what? Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So, but yes, I just wanted to get that from you, man. And but Rusty, we appreciate you as always. It's fun talking to you, and we're in the early stages of the off season. Obviously, the combine, you guys can check it out over the next couple of days. Will be on NFL Network. We're gonna have so we had they was the defensive lineman, linebackers. So we should have defensive backs and quarterbacks, running backs, offensive linemen coming up over the next couple of days. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll keep you covered here as well. And thank you, Rusty, for coming on.
Oh yeah, I always enjoyed. Thanks again for having me. It's been a blessing.
Yes, always, man. Well, you have a great one, bro, and thank you again.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Man, see ya.
Okay. All right, man. Take care.